Sri Aurobindo writes, flowers are the moment's representation of things that are in themselves eternal. So what is wrong here is it's not representations, it's the moment's representation of things that are in themselves eternal. So it shouldn't be a plural, and previously they had moments plural, which is correct now. It's the moment, it's the representation of the moment. And when we look at a flower, we will see its growth, its budding, its final flowering, and then its seed production. Sri Aurobindo tells us also that nothing that has ever lived dies. Nothing dies. It changes its form, as our bodies do also, when we pass into the higher realm of consciousness. So the important thing here is something I want to stress. And I have a quote from an old man who passed away years ago. And it is our key in this yoga, as well as in life. He writes, beautiful gardens are fine things, but the fierce addiction of gardeners goes far beyond pretty pictures made with plants. A fellow who delivers the mail has written me that he must have seen pretty gardens, he guesses. But it was only when he became a mailman late in life and traveled by foot that he began to notice the great differences that exist among roses. And then he will conclude with these extraordinary lines. Leisure, slowness, contemplation. In an age of perfect efficiency and professionalism, these amateur virtues are perhaps despised, but they may underline the greatest joys of gardening and of life. It is not enough to grow the most beautiful things. It is even better to explore them, to identify with them, and to grow into a rather new consciousness of them. There are so many great writers on plants, but that last line means and should mean everything to us. To grow into a rather new consciousness of them. And that's why we're here. We're here in the Mother's Flower Garden to go very deeply into plants. And I'm going to take some time to talk to you about the importance of all of you, each of you. Find a flower that speaks to you. Find a flower that you can speak to it, and make that communication that I, by Mother's grace, have done with many, many different flowers. If you can do this, if you can see this plant is so special that I want it to be my friend, my companion, But it goes deeper than that for us. Why does it go deeper? Because it's just not a botanical name that has been given by some scientist or some common name that has been given by people on the road. Lady's slipper, woman's tongue. They have no meaning at all. And for us, for once, the Mother has given us the meaning, the significance of nearly 900 flowers. This garden is, for me, the purest example of the grace. Mother has blessed this land. She has blessed it so abundantly that as you go through, you can feel the vibration, not only the fragrance, the vibration of the flowers. And I've walked around this morning with Poonam, and I've seen things that I've never seen before. Why is this happening? Well, Sri Aurobindo tells us that when the supermind came down, everything began to change. There's a scholar I listen to on YouTube from time to time, Yoel Noah Harari, and he speaks of the world 6 years from now will be totally different from anything we've not known in the past. In fact, so different that everything is going to change. Diplomacy, financing, anything you can think of is already being refined beyond most human intellects. So make it a part of your life to learn the Mother's significances for the flowers. What will it do? Well, Sri Aurobindo talks about the word and the importance of the word. And I can't quote, of course, it's a long article, but what he says basically is, if you begin to concentrate on a specific word, the power and the resonance of that word will remain in your being. So he tells us that if you concentrate on the Mother, on Sri Aurobindo, on the Divine Presence, that force will begin to enter you. And then he concludes with a quote from the Bible. He said about God saying the word. Let there be light. And there was light. There we are. The power of the word. Let the Mother dwell in you, and the Mother will be there always, never occasionally, always, overseeing all you do. And the most important thing for me right now is the children. The children should be invited here to find their plant, the one that speaks to them. And if they're artistic, perhaps they could paint it. And we see all of these new significances all through the garden. And many of them even have Tamil names. And what we are doing in Mother and Sri Aurobindo .in, my website, is utilizing a new app that translates in any language without 1% correction needed. Perfectly translates. This is where we're moving. As AI and these other things are being left behind already. So much is evolving. So I'd like to go through a few flowers. And we can go any place. Now there's a flower that many of us know, and it's called Euphorbia millii. Well, when I first did this book with some friends, we had to decide how are we going to organize it. If we organize it by common names, that would be a stupidity. If we organized it by mother's significances, how would you find it? So we decided first, we'll do it by botanical name. Because wherever a horticulturist is in the world, he may pronounce it differently, but he will know the plant. So it's very important to have at least a beginning introduction to the plants and learn their botanical names. We don't go too high up in the family. We just basically stay around genus, species, variety, cultivar. And so Euphorbia millii has actually a nice common name, crown of thorns. What does Mother call it? Concentration. And what does she say? Does not aim at effect, but is simple and persistent. If you are simple and if you are persistent when you go through all of these flowers, there will be one or two that speak to you. Yes, it's not in our human language, but they have a language of their own. You can touch a flower and it can tell you things that you never knew about it before. You can smell a flower and it will convey to you the perfection of its type. I have worked on many, many flowers. Going through botanical name, categorizing size, flowering, fragrance, whether it's an annual, living only one season, or whether it's a perennial, permanently, whether it's a shrub, a tree, a water lily. And I have all those things done for anyone who might like to have copies. It's been a work of many, many years. Because in the early days, the children used to bring Mother flowers from the fields, little tiny flowers, whatever they could find. If they thought it was new, it had to go to Mother. And I personally, beginning the Matrimanya Gardens Nursery, took between 60 and 80 flowers to Mother, and she named all of them. All the great Hawaiian hibiscus. I would stand by the samadhi because Tara Johar took the flowers to Mother because she gave them significance in French. Occasionally she gave some in English, but Tara translated from the French. So I would stand by the Samadhi, and suddenly I hear Mother's voice. Magnifique! Perfect! So loud it would ring over the Samadhi, and you cannot imagine my joy that Mother would hold these in her hand, look at them, talk about them. So we gathered so many. I even took some to her in the last days, 1972. I brought her the stems of what we know as the I Ching, and that would be tossed to indicate something, usually of a higher nature. And Mother looked at it, and she held it, and she looked at it, and she said, "Do we have this name?" And I said, "I think so, Mother." But she didn't give it definitively, so I let it go. But I was with the man who was in charge of the Matrimandia, Shamsundar. And I would always put my head on Mother's feet. Just before we were about to leave Mother, he said to me, "Put your head in Mother's lap." She's here with us right now. She's always with us. As is Sri Aurobindo. I met him 3 times in the subtle physical. And that is the whole meaning of my life. Now, we should all get this book because it's the best book. But there's another book, and it's a bit costly, but I believe they lowered the price now. And that is the reason for this garden, Mother's Flower Garden, because it's going to be categorized by significances. So we'll have a garden of the divine, with all the divine flowers in it. And we'll have 12 gardens. And we have plenty of room. Yes, we need funds. We always need funds because the project is so vast. And to give money for something that is so precious, that has never been on earth before. And I will tell you that I worked for 12 years in the nursery, collecting all the species and varieties that Mother had named. And then when they closed down the nursery, I began to work with Kiran at the Lake Estate. And if you can get to the Lake Estate, you will see many, many flowers that Mother named. They have 17 varieties of Sri Aurobindo's compassion. 17 colors. Oh, amazing. They have huge water lily areas. And 10 times that will be here in Mother's Flower Garden. People are giving their lives to this work. Their love, their consciousness, their work. Now, you know, with the plants and flowers, we naturally get the weeds. They have their place too, because where there are no weeds, there are deserts. But weeding takes help, and we need your help. You can come early morning when it's cool, and you can water or you can weed, but you have to learn the nature of the plant. If you, for example, I have a friend from Switzerland who has come with his wife every year, and he prunes. He's a tree expert, and he could train people in pruning. What about watering? Does it need a lot? Does it need a little? I don't want to be negative, but the banyan tree is not being cared for properly because the banyan is a dry climate tree. It does not want water and it does not want grass under its limbs. And therefore, because it's been given that all this time, it has grown 4 times its original size already. And one of the gardens that I finished recently may be lost unless we keep pruning gently, consciously, asking the permission of the tree. And that's going on. And they stay for about 2 months, and he prunes every day. What about music? What about singing Om to a flower and feel its vibration? You will feel it. So I carry on a little bit. Because there are flowers that are so fragrant. We just passed one. Poonam and I passed by Lonicera japonica. Now, what does japonica mean? Very easy, no? Japan. So it comes from Japan. And it's called the Japanese honeysuckle. And these flowers towards the evening are so fragrant. What did Mother name it? Constant remembrance of the divine. Before we completed the book, we went to Mother and asked her, would you make a comment on each flower? And Mother answered, yes, but I want to see all of them. So some of them we had to show her in books or in prints because they were Western flowers and they couldn't grow here yet, but they will grow here. Mother said first you could have greenhouses for them, but she also said the climate is changing rapidly. We may not always feel that, but it is. And she said that warmer, hotter environments will become cooler, and very cold environments will become warmer. This is going to happen in the next 10 years. This is in most of your lifetimes. So, constant remembrance of the divine. Mother's comment. Spontaneous and joyful. It is the ideal condition. Now, we're not always joyful. But I only know 1 or 2 flowers that are not joyful out of the nearly 900. And we asked Mother, why did you give an unpleasant name to this flower. And Mother said, because it has taken upon itself to purify. We go to another one. Something you will all be familiar with. But it has two names given by Mother. And what could it be? Mangifera. Anybody? Mangifera? Mango. So the mango tree has large racemes and they bear tiny, fragrant, cream-colored flowers. What has Mother named it? Nature's hope for realization. Nature knows that one day she will realize. And now, the fruit. And there are a number of plants Mother has named for the flower or the fruit. I'll tell you another one. But mango fruit is divine knowledge. So each time you're eating a mango, remember that you are inhaling divine knowledge in your being. Mother also gave a comment. Succulent, nourishing, strength-giving. Oh. And now I'm going to go to a plant that is all over Mother's flower garden. And it's the coleus. So the coleus has many variegated and differently colored leaves. You can see them all around here. What does Mother call it? Strength in the vital. But she also named the splendid spikes. They're slender, they're lavender blue, they're tiny. And she named that spiritual awakening of the vital. It soars towards the heights in the hope of reaching them. So you can ask some of our experts here if you want to see the coleus. They'll be happy to show them to you. So we have plants that have been brought from many, many different countries. Africa, Spathodia campanulata. Campanula in Italian, some people hear, like a bell. And it's a big tree with orange flowers. And Mother names it Passion. So as you go through this extraordinary book, you'll see at the back some very interesting things. There are flowers that Mother renamed when she got to see them a second time. So there's one page on that. And then there are flowers named for Oroville. And almost all of them are the ones that I brought to Mother. So there's an interesting story here. Some of them still bear two names. Heir of Oroville. We all know it as Miracle. How many know it as miracle? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. And when does it bloom? Where does it bloom? Do we know that?
England, London, England, England, UK.
Here
Uh,
also. It blooms everywhere.
In the forest.
Miracle is native to India. And if you go into the forest, the dry climate forest, when nothing else is blooming, there'll be this shower of deep blue, and that's miracle. It can survive total drought. It has no insects that can attack it. And I've planted it at the entrance to the Machu Mandir. Now, I just want to share with you a few of the flowers of the hibiscus, especially named for Oroville. There's the beauty of Oroville. There's the blossoming of Oroville. There's the charm of Oroville, the effort of Oroville, firmness of Oroville, ideal of Oroville, manifold power of Oroville, progress of Oroville, realization of Oroville, spiritual beauty of Oroville, success of Oroville, sweetness of Oroville, and usefulness of Oroville. So one day, when Tara had brought one of my plants, Mother said, you know, we have to expand this significance a little bit. So Mother changed it, the Oroville flowers, not changed, kept the Oroville name, but changed to beauty of the new creation, blossoming of the new creation, charm of the new creation, manifold power of the new creation. So it's quite clear to us here that Oroville is the new creation. There is no other new creation right now. Yes, there are spots on earth where people are aspiring, they're praying for change, but Oroville is the mother's vision of a superhumanity in the future. I wrote a number of articles on understanding the messages of flowers. And we know that India, being a tropical and maybe far north a little subtropical, but not a temperate climate, no freezes here. Therefore, anything can be grown, but we have to learn how to grow it. And this, I must say, that Rabi and Poonam, who are the founders, along with Narad and a few others, of the Mother's Flower Garden, have gone deeply into the understanding of the flowers. And I will say this, and maybe it's right to say it. There are some people in the world who we say have a green thumb. And it means that anything they put in the ground will grow. Rabi is one, for sure, and Puno. Absolutely. And you know, that has to be something deep within the consciousness. It's not a learned thing. Perhaps it's from previous births. Perhaps it's a gift that the mother has given to them now. And now we have to get into different things like the hibiscus, because the hibiscus, which is not only in India, but in other areas of the world. And interestingly, Hawaii has grown the most exceptionally beautiful hibiscus. And when I was a good bit younger, I would go every month to Bangalore and meet with the directors of the great gardens, B.P. Paul, V.S. Randhawa, Dr. Marigauda. These people are all gone now, but they've done their work. They've done what we call monographs. That is a complete study of one species. I know that Dr. Powell took me to his home, and he did the main book on bougainvillea. Bougainvillea is not native to India. It's native to Brazil. And so all these great doctors I had the opportunity to work with. My wife and I traveled for 6 months all over the world to meet great scientists and horticulturists. I remember going to Thailand to a nursery that grew only orchids. And the man there shared everything with me on how they could make an orchid bloom every day of the year, joyously. I shared that information, but I was not allowed to use it because they said no chemicals. But Mother wrote to me, for the flowers you can use chemicals. The important thing here is to know what the plant wants. Some of you may have seen the deserts in America in early spring. It is a thing of such beauty. You don't want to walk away from it. And those plants had no water for months and months and months. And with the first rains, it burst into bloom. So, the hibiscus. Botanically, it's called Hibiscus rosa sinensis. And it used to be that the British people used to polish their shoes with the flower. And therefore it was known as the shoe black. Now, of all the flowers that Mother named, hibiscus is the most. I think there are 43 different varieties. It's amazing. And you can see the hibiscus on the far side here of Mother's flower garden. So very often the hibiscus is recognized and accepted as a flower of power, sometimes of Kali, sometimes of eternal youth, and of course the new creation, Oroville. Just to go through them once in a while will teach you so much. Now, we have power in the converted mind, power of effort, power of harmony, power of the future, power of consciousness, power of action. You can see that power is in that flower. Look at all the temples that have the red hibiscus, the single hibiscus, devoted to the deity. So the colors are quite unique. Some purple, and we do have purple ones here, and all the other colors you can think of. Now, what is happening in the world of flowers? I know that new flowers are coming to us every year, sometimes every month. Yes, of course, there's genetics involved, and there is a great deal of Mendelian theory. But basically, if you want to create a new flower, take the stamen of a flower that you like. You like the shape, you like the fragrance, or you like the beauty of it, and put it on when it's fully open, just fully open, and the pollen has opened up a little bit, and dust it on another hibiscus. And that hibiscus will provide perhaps 7 or 8 different new flowers. This is an experiment that can be made with the children. Should be made with the children. Things that they like, things that pop open, things that scatter their seeds. These are all wonders to the little ones. And I hope you'll bring them regularly to Mother's Flower Garden. I've got 15 minutes left, so, but I can take questions too. So, we have 2 plants that we all know. The one we call bird of paradise is the common one that we see all over the world. But it's not what Mother named. Mother named a flower that's just as you go out of Mother's flower garden, hanging down with red and yellow clusters. Very beautiful. But what did she name the bird of paradise? So now we have to find out about that. And what about one of those flowers we love so much? Satchidananda. The whole thing is there. It's the butterfly lily or the garland lily. And there are many, many colors. I had grown in America and in the nursery, Matrimonial Gardens Nursery, about 7 different colors. Yellow, pink, orange, and the great one, the white one. In the garden of the unexpected, the first thing you come upon is Satchidananda. So I'll go through a couple more. There are plants from Rio de Janeiro, from Brazil, from other places in the world. And so now we have the question of the adaptability of a species. Well, my dear friend Parichan would get 50 perfect roses every year and get them to bloom. They would bloom just around Mother's birthday. So he went to Mother and he said, Mother, every year I have to buy these flowers. They're very costly. And should I not stop? And Mother said, you have to work with the plant so that it can learn to adapt to its environment. And that's another work that we have to do. Maybe there's a delicate plant that we think will not grow here. And then we decide, well, it needs a lot more compost. It's a heavy feeder. And then it comes into bloom. So I know I've given you many, many possibilities today, but please bring the children and bring yourselves, because the collective work that we do has a great power also. Not just individual work. The importance, of course, of much of Mother's sayings for Oroville is the collective harmony that has to be. Now, when I began the Om Choir, I worked on it for years because Mother told me to bring down a new music. And so I did it first with a few people. I remember very much with Mary Helen and Shraddhavan and a few others who were there at the time. This is the early 70s. And then one day the Lord spoke to me and he said, it would be better for a collective group to sing the Om. The power would be much fuller, much more intense. So we have the Om Choir once a week here at Savitri Bhavan and once a week in the ashram. 10 minutes left. How about questions? Yes, ma'am.
I find very interesting the idea of the adaptability of the plants.
Yes.
Could you say more about that? For example, there are Mediterranean plants like lavender,
Yes.
and how to make them grow here.
Yes. It may have to be in a succession of experiments. For example, if the lavender does not need a hard freeze, then maybe under the shade at first, or dark, heavy shade, so it can adapt a little bit, and then move it out a little further and see how far it can go. We know that it blooms in full sun, and when you see pictures of it, or you smell it, it's incredible. So that's one way. Another way would be transitionally in a greenhouse. It could be a small greenhouse. And now there's been such advances in greenhouses that they have a wall made of coir. And they have a fan blowing through the coir and cooling the whole greenhouse. No electricity needed. It could be a small greenhouse at first. A very wonderful experiment for someone. The plants of the West, Mother has named, maybe 40 or 50. And of course, she used to live in Paris and walk through the gardens. And of course, the names came to her from there. So it's not alone our work. It's the work of the world that has to learn to appreciate the sacredness of this planet. You see, all the other philosophies, and I'll just go for a few moments on that. The Advaitists, the Buddhists, don't even consider God. And they feel mukti, realization, They get rid of all desires, they get rid of old habits, they get rid of everything and find that peace. And they don't have to go any further. But Sri Aurobindo says, what about this earth? This earth is the home for the divine. We have to keep it sacred. I'm just seeing things now that you wouldn't believe. Cleaning of the ocean in vast areas with new techniques. And I can tell you, I know from a friend that all the plastics will be transformed into something useful by the supermental. And any other questions?
There any ways to make that
You have to come, can you bring in the mic?
so is there any way to arrange the flowers? Is it something like grouping the flowers? Okay, it's
Well,
all okay.
Okay, it's a good question, yeah. It depends on what you mean by arrange, first of all. We have a young man here who helps us, and he stages the flowers. That's when you see these beautiful masses. And they do the same in the ashram. And you know, I stand for minutes by some of those flower stagings, arrangements. They're just vibrating with power and with beauty. Anytime you go to the ashram, you will see many flowers around the samadhi. You had a question.
Thing is like sometimes, as you see, like if we arrange flowers in a separates, we segregate the flowers. Okay, so if I possess some kind of a mood, focusing on the flowers alone may give some kind of vibration. Sometimes a group of flowers there that gives a different vibration. So that's what I'm asking.
They don't usually compete with each other. They're quite friendly. And to work with them as an offering to the mother. Otherwise, it's meaningless. If you work for yourself and say, oh, this is for the mother, that's not the idea. The idea is offer to the mother all your work, all your hours. And by the way, you don't have to come and work a full day or a half day. You can come for a couple of hours. Bring the children for a couple of hours or an hour. Whatever's convenient for you, because this is not a closed place. This is wide open to the world.
Narad, there are two more questions.
Oh, okay, sure. We need the microphone.
Yeah, well, could you share your earliest memory of identifying with a flower?
Okay. I was 5 years old, and we were living in the United States. My father had a very small house, and he had a nice garden outside. And my mother loved flowers. And so she planted a garden, one whole area of hyacinth, mother's name, pride of beauty. And I came outside and I saw those flowers. And I was so taken with them that I picked every one, destroyed her garden, and brought it up to my mother. And she wept that I had done that for her, and she wept because I had ruined her garden. Yes, Uma.
First of all, this is not a question, Naraji. It's a gratitude because I had an opportunity of visiting Naraji's house in Atlanta where he housed this much garden. So I missed that and I was aspiring, when can I see it again? So when I entered this garden, I felt the same. So thanks for arranging such a beautiful place. Once you enter, as you said, the vibration we felt in each flower and the space and the soil. So thanks for the lovely work, and your love for mother is seen everywhere, and beautiful manifestation by Rabi and Poonam. Thank you, Naraji.
Thank you.
Thanks for
So I have a question. There are many flowers which bloom only at night. What can be the reason?
What can?
Be the reason.
Maybe the nightshades. The nightshade is a very poisonous flower. I'm just joking. I think they're the harbingers of the morning. The harbingers of the morning. They prepare the morning flowers. It's a beautiful way of looking at it, isn't it? And not only that, but they welcome the insects, the animals. And that's another thing. We have to learn to control the rapid expanse of animals. In the Matrimandya gardens, the boars have been terrible. And here, I believe we had to build a deep fence, and so there are none here. But it was a huge work, costly and tiring. But now you don't see them running around here. And yet, when I walked through this morning with Poonam, the birds were singing everywhere. And there's that, of course, that connection, again, with all nature. If you read Savitri, you will understand so much more about your own life and the direction of this planet. And I guess if I can remember it, I'll quote a few lines. Alive and clad with trees and herbs and flowers, Earth's great brown body smiled towards the skies.